on this edition of CultureShop, your guide to guidebooks, and where do you find those must-have products? Join us as we rummage through Top Drawer. It's CultureShop.
A guidebook, a souvenir guide as they're often called, is the perfect souvenir from any gift shop, and if you sell sufficient to go into a reprint, then they can become very profitable. And so I would always recommend that if you can, you should sell a souvenir guide.
I've done guidebooks on tiny budgets and on bigger budgets as well, and I think you really want to get this right. This becomes the authority on your organisation that people are going to take away with them. So for me, the most important thing is it's really robust, it's really informative, and you know that guidebooks are going to be passed around between people as well. So if it's on someone's coffee table, someone else is going to pick it up. So this might always be the only thing that some people know about your museum or heritage site.
Guidebooks can be a vital part of your product mix. Potentially, they should be your biggest selling product in any heritage or museum shop. They're unique in that they offer interpretation, marketing, and also act as a souvenir. But more importantly, they can actually be your biggest revenue earner and create the best profit.
The guidebook Expose is without doubt our best seller at the Mary Rose Museum. It makes up 25% of our profit for the shop. It's quite an amazing seller in that sense, and it's streets above everything else. When you look at our weekly, monthly, daily sales figures, it's up there as a great seller. We're doing around 7% as a strike rate of visitors at the moment. We've had 250,000 since we reopened back in last July, so it's a fabulous seller.
Well, we've got too many guidebooks, but 3 ranges. We have a little guidebook that you can walk around with. It has a plan. It doesn't have large images, but it takes you around step by step and gives you the basics. A new introduction is the souvenir guidebook, which has wonderful photography and just a caption, and the captions are in 4 languages. That's been successful. It's an idea that's worked well.
What makes a good guidebook? Well, a good guidebook really is one that sells. No guidebook is a good guidebook unless it's leaving your shop in paper bags. It has to sell. So we can do the best photography, the most innovative design, create lovely words, put it all on the page. But if it's not jumping off the shelves and going through your till, then in my view, it's not a good guidebook.
It's sometimes very tempting to go kind of high art end for guidebooks, but we've found if you're appealing to that mass average visitor, then something that's accessible and looks great and is a good price is that winning combination.
When we're working on a guidebook, I like to spend a lot of time getting to know the attraction or the museum. We'll do site visits, both with our clients and without, because we want to be incognito sometimes. We'll spend a lot of time watching and listening to visitors, talking to visitors and understanding how they're enjoying or interpreting in a way the experience that you're offering. And what we're trying to do is then trying to distill that experience down into a 2-dimensional product, a book essentially. So we'll be identifying the key things that drive them on through their visit and the things that they're going to remember and take away.
So one of the things that we find about the painted hall is that it's very rich iconography here. And when people are coming into the painted hall, they can be quite awestruck about what this place is really. It's a huge building. There's 40,000 square feet of paintings here. So obviously when you come in for the first time, it's quite a lot to take in. And we have a number of staff and volunteers who are working here to help people really understand what this place is, but also what the paintings mean as well. So one of the things that's really good is for us to use the guidebook and to really decode that iconography for people. So it's not about us giving as much information as possible when we're here. The guidebook is really, really essential to let people find out more in their own time and hopefully go away and research a little bit more because they're really tempted by some of the things that we've told them in the guidebook.
The Mary Rose Museum is kept at quite a low light levels, both to conserve the ship and also to create the ambience of being on board her Henry's Tudor flagship. So what I would say is very important for us is that the guide, although we'd obviously call it a guidebook because that's the phrase that people are familiar with, it's very much a souvenir guide. So it doesn't take you necessarily on a tour around the museum. You wouldn't be walking around reading it and saying, oh look, we've arrived in the main deck, let's have a look at what it says. It's very much that book to flick through as you go through, learn a bit more detail about what you've seen, but very much a take home, sitting there in the evening after you've been perhaps with a glass of wine, flicking through and reminding yourself of the fantastic day out you've had at the Mary Rose, and hopefully learn some more and see some images that we've just not been able to include in the museum, because the museum is about the ship, so there's lots more pictures of the raising in the guidebook. It takes a lot more about the story and the history and the sailing of the ship. So there's lots more that you can learn about the story of the Mary Rose from within our souvenir guide than what you will do in the museum. So it really is that perfect book to accompany and that perfect souvenir to take away with you to remind you of your fabulous day out you've had with us at the Mary Rose.
Are there any rules to doing guidebooks? No, there aren't any rules. Basically, you start with a blank sheet of paper and you can produce, or you can get someone to produce anything for you. Okay, so how do you start to put together a guidebook? Well, gather your team around you, decide who's going to have some input internally and possibly externally.
I think one of the things for me is that really important is to really think about how much investment that you can put towards this, and it may be that you can think about a project. So some museums and heritage sites actually commission a project to help them to fund this sort of thing or this sort of interpretation. I think it's really worth looking into that to see if you can do it, because it will inevitably be, if you have a really small team, that you might really benefit from people who are coming in who might help you be able to write the text, who might be able to help you produce it. It's worth working with people like experts from Jigsaw who are able to help us to think about what actually sells. They've got so much experience of working with so many different other organisations, they really know what works. So talk to them about it as well. But when it comes to your own museum, make sure you've got that really dedicated curatorial input and think about outsourcing that as well, should you need it.
It's fair to say that our curatorial team, so our head of research Alex, really led on the content. I mean, they are the absolute fonts of all knowledge about the Mary Rose, the collection, the story. So we've very much left the content to them because they know best. But what is fabulous for us is that we have a curatorial team who were happy and really wanted to design a book that was designed for all museum visitors. Well, they didn't go away and come back with some academic tome which wasn't appropriate to your everyday visitor to the museum, who may have a little bit of knowledge, no knowledge, or quite a bit of knowledge. So they were really crucial in driving what is a fabulous book. They really bought into what we were looking for and fully supported us along the way. So we had some input into what images and stuff and how it would work and the amount of text, the amount of pages. But really, we left the content to them, and they came up with did a fabulous job. And it really was a fabulous example of teamwork across the trust.
So you need to be talking to curators. You might want to talk to other people on your retail team. It depends on your organisation and how you're set up. You might want to bring marketing in. There could be a director. There could be lots of people who have an input or who you want to have an input. But people like me, other publishing companies or designers who you can bring in at an early stage and talk us through what your brief is, show us what you want to try and achieve and how you want to go about it. And pick our brains. We're all nice people. We'll know what we're doing, and we're quite willing to share our experience and our knowledge with you. And ask questions. Let us come back to you with some suggestions and some ideas. And then you pick the best bits out of a particular idea or a concept or whatever, and make sure that you can retain that ownership of it so that it's your project at the end of the day. Not always easy, but try and take ownership and control of your project and your product. Bring in outside consultants, bring in outside designers, talk to them, give them a brief so that they can understand what you're trying to achieve. Talk to some of your visitors and establish what your visitors are doing in your museum, what they're looking at, what are the things, the key attractions that stimulate them, that make them think. Also think about who those visitors are. Are you aiming at a very broad range of visitors, age-wise, or are you looking at children? Are you looking at families? And tailor what you're trying to produce to match that particular group.
The museum, the Mary Rose, is dedicated to the men and the sailors that were on board the ship, and very much everything we do is in their memory. Over 500 men were lost. We also lost the ship's dog, so the ship's dog the skeleton was found when the divers and the archaeologists were down underwater bringing stuff up. So for us, the dogs proved a crucial part of the story. So he was an obvious candidate when we were looking to do a younger person's guide to the museum. The dog's known as Hatch. It was an ideal product for Hatch, and Hatch to be that person that takes you around for a child. And it leads on nicely as well to a number of stuff that we do during school holidays. So Hatch's storytelling, build your own Hatch, that sort of stuff, and you cut out and colouring Hatch. So and cuddly toys in the shop as well, as you can imagine. So he really has been a key character for us to build a product range and story around.
Top tip number one is planning. As much that can be done before the book is started to be crafted, and that's research, thoughts, price points, location, customer profile.
Speak to the experts. The first thing you should do. There's a wealth of knowledge out there. You can learn from something from them. Find out best practice. Pick their brains, get ideas, take it all on board and help you to formulate what you want to do.
The guidebook is the single most profitable contribution to the retail shop. So getting it right is the most important concern. And sometimes clients we work with have already perhaps inherited guidebooks that have been to the site in the past. It's really good to sort of start afresh and think, how are we, in this particular timing, with my customer profile, how are we going to maximise that book and make lots of profit?
Know your budget and work to it.
In the terms of the budget, we'd really kind of like you to be honest about how much you can afford. There's no such thing as a small budget, but there is such a thing as a budget that doesn't work for you. So what we'd like to do is explore and look at how we can maximise that budget, and that's whether it's £1,000 or, in some cases, tens of thousands of pounds.
So the key is to really have a focus on what you're trying to achieve. Tell us what your budget is going to be, work to that budget, and then try and get the most out of the budget for the format of book that you want, the content that you want within the book, the number of pages, and the number of copies ultimately that you print. People often think that our job ends when we produce the guidebook and we deliver the boxes to you and put them on the shelf. But that's really only part of the story. There is a legacy to it, and the guidebook will be on the shelf, and you have to keep the front of house and the retail staff enthused and upbeat about it. If you do that, then you'll sell more.
Now, trade shows are a fab source of inspiration, suppliers, new products, new ideas, and a fun day out too. Here's Sue Croxford to tell us more.
Hello, I'm Sue. I'm here at Olympia at the top drawer. It's September, thinking about Christmas, thinking about next spring. I've been coming to this trade show for probably getting on for 20 years, and it always gives me the same buzz when I walk through the door and when I leave. I'm looking for a range of new products, just looking for enjoying talking to people, seeing what everybody else is doing. It's the place to come. This show is aspirational and inspirational, and it's somewhere to come. You may not buy lots of things, but you can see what everyone else is doing. You can see the latest colours, the latest design trends, and you can apply that to your own shop. You may not buy huge ranges, but you can slot in little gems into your existing range and give it that uplift that it needs. I'm looking at the trends, I'm looking at the style of print that people are putting onto their t-shirts, I'm looking at the style of greeting cards that are the latest. I'm also looking at the merchandising. These suppliers here have all given a lot of time and effort into displaying their goods to best advantage, to be attractive and to make people want to buy. And that is, that's free information that you can gather and just come here and you can talk to people. They'll tell you about their goods, they'll tell you about what's coming up, and it's just really not one to miss. The first time you go to a trade show, or every time you go to a trade show, the first thing that you need to do is prepare. First off, you need to wear some comfortable shoes and have a bottle of water. If you've got business cards, take them with you. And then you also need, probably in the week before you go, you need to start looking at your own product ranges. If you're planning new ranges, the type of goods that you want, make lists for yourself, run sales reports, take your stock level reports with you, and think about how much you want to spend. One of the first things that I would say about at a trade show is go with the idea of not actually placing any orders at the show. Go back to the office, take the catalogues, think about it, work out what the value of the order would be, whether it fits into your budget. Don't rush into anything. The best trade show is the one that you'll get at the ACE convention, and hopefully you will manage to visit that. The one good thing about that is all of the suppliers are heritage focused. You know that you can rely on the suppliers that you see at the ACE convention trade show. You get a wonderful range, textiles, greeting cards, giftware of all types, and you know that other people within this sector are purchasing from these suppliers.
I'm sad to say that's it for this series. It's time for us to put up our close sign here at the beautiful Hepworth in Wakefield.
But panic not, we will return with a couple of special editions later in the year, so do please watch out for the details on the ACE website and emails arriving in your inbox.
We hope you found CultureShop useful, interesting, inspiring and entertaining. Do let us know what you think through the email address on the website. So thank you for watching, thank you for your input, and until next time, goodbye.
All the best, goodbye.